Hey y'all, and welcome back. This is the World History Project, and I'm Wood Boyles. Last week, we highlighted some major changes in Era 5. The biggest one was the connection of the Eastern and Western hemispheres through the Columbian Exchange. This kicked off what historians call the First Global Age. This week, we're going to take a look at something historians call the Long 19th Century. This was another period of time where a lot of change is happening all over the world. We'll start with political revolutions like the French and Haitian revolutions. Then we'll move on to the Industrial Revolution and how imperialism and colonization were tied to it. Finally, we'll introduce you to economic revolutions like the emergence of socialism. Today, I just want to start with a question. Why do we call the time period from 1750 to 1914 the Long 19th Century? Well, a century is only 100 years, so we can see by those dates that it spans almost 200 years. But historians call it this partly because these 164 odd years include a ton of change, which you'll remember that historians love to study. Change over time is kind of their thing. All of this change forms Era 6 in our course, but what exactly is changing? Here's the short list because we're short on time. The biggest successful slave revolt of all time occurs in Haiti. Monarchies begin to fall apart, and most of the Americas gain independence from Europe. Slavery is abolished. China's dynastic cycle ends. We get to drive cars for the first time, and women get to vote. Oh yeah, voting makes a comeback during this period too. And we end this long 19th century on a low note with the outbreak of the First World War. Side note here, nobody seems to realize that since Era 5 and the First Global Age, several wars were actually global in scale. I'm looking at you, French and Indian War. So why does everybody call it World War I or the First World War or the war to end all wars? It wasn't the first global war. Anyways, we can classify several of these changes as revolutions. But what does that really mean? Revolution can mean to go in circles or to turn. If you're like me and love cars, revolutions per minute or RPM is a big deal. If you don't love cars but have been in a car, it's the big dial beside of the one that tells you how fast you're going. Go check it out. But revolution is our word of the day. And in this context, it means a massive transformation of ideas or ways of doing something. So basically, it means a great change. You may have heard of the American Revolution, which was a big change for some people living in America. It was definitely a big change in Britain. But there's actually a danger in calling something a revolution. Some things don't change. And historians aren't always great about catching these continuities, as they're called. For example, in the American Revolution, slavery wasn't eliminated. Women didn't get the right to vote. The new people in charge looked and acted very similar to the people ruling the 13 colonies before the Revolution. So was it really a revolution? Was it really a major historical change? Some people say yes, because it created the first modern democracy. Other people question how democratic that democracy really was and is today. Other revolutions do seem more revolutionary, such as the Haitian Revolution. This was where slaves took control of an island, defeated several European powers, and formed their own country. As we try to look at the big picture, just remember that there is a bit of continuity happening alongside the big changes. Today, I want you to go to Khan Academy and watch the Era 6 overview in Lesson 6.0. As you watch, think about the major changes during this era and whether or not this time period deserves its label, the Long 19th Century. Once you've watched the video, write about this in your historian's journal. How would you periodize and name a recent time period in history? Think about the last 100 years or even the last 20 years or maybe events just in your lifetime. How could you organize them based on dates? And what would you name that time period you've chosen? Will COVID get its own periodization, or is it just a blip on the radar of history? Thanks, and I'll see you next time.